everything, including being the mascot, but he's turned it into a really successful career so far. So Josh is a anchor, reporter, producer at WDVT in West Virginia, and Matt is now a content segment producer for the NFL. He's had an interesting career. I'll let those guys go in a little more detail, but he worked at the University of Baylor and University of Cincinnati in their video departments, and then was with the Oakland A's in their video department, and got furloughed, as many people did during the pandemic, but quickly reinvented himself with an NFL job. So we thought that would also be a good lesson for this group and some inspiring. Even when bad things happen, if you're aggressive enough, you can turn it positive. So Matt, as the veteran of the two, do you want to start a little bit about yourself for our group?
Yeah, sure. So thanks all for joining today. Like Tom said, my name is Matt Desmond. I graduated in 2012 from Point Park. I am a Pittsburgh native, residing from the North Hills. I started my career, interning with the athletics department at Point Park, just from my freshman year. Really got my start there and really knew I had a passion for sports and really wanted to see where I could go with my career. I always knew I wanted to work in sports, but I didn't know what capacity. So after graduation, I worked with KDKA TV for a little bit, and then realized, I want to move away from Pittsburgh and really branch out and get some more experience in other parts of the country. So worked a year in minor league baseball in South Carolina with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. From there, I went to college athletics. I worked in the Big 12, working with Baylor University, working in live production, doing a lot of their live events there, from women's basketball, baseball, softball, and working on football game days. And transitioned to the University of Cincinnati, where I really wanted to get a lot of experience with content production. So I was really responsible for doing all the social media videos for men's basketball, football, traveled with the football and basketball team, responsible for a lot of the content in stadium as well. So got a really good experience there at University of Cincinnati, and then realized, I wanted to see what the professional sports scene was like. So had the great opportunity for working for the Oakland Athletics for 3 years. Was able to go to 2 postseasons with the Athletics. So that was a really cool experience. And then, as we all know, 2020 has been a really weird year. So I was a part of a furlough, like many people were in this industry. So I really had to take the time to, really rely on my network, and was able to find a job with the NFL. And I'm with the NFL now. I've been there for about 5-6 months. Really, it's a great opportunity, and working on some Super Bowl content right now, and just happy to talk with you guys today. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. And Josh, before I turn it over to you, I know, Josh, when we interviewed you for that first day when you were a freshman for the winter meetings, you said you wanted to be an anchor on Sports Center. You're not quite there yet, but you got into TV right out, and kind of a different kind of TV right out of your college days, and are doing quite well. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your path?
So when I was at Point Park, I wanted to do sports, and solely sports. And freshman year, like Tom said, I went to the baseball winter meetings. They hyped me up a little too much from that freshman year, but the nerdy little freshman in me was able to weasel my way into the winter meetings, and I landed an internship with the West Virginia Power in Charleston in West Virginia, which is ironically where I'm at now. Not in Charleston, I'm in the northern part of the state. And I did the summer in broadcast production with the Power in minor league baseball. That helped me eventually get to the Pirates for a season doing media relations. I did a semester internship with the Penguins on their media relations staff, and then joined their game night crew after my internship for another season. I did stuff with the NHL Network, AT&T Sportsnet, Fox Sports, ESPN3, just about anybody that would come to Pittsburgh, I weaseled my way in, and got a lot of really good hands-on sports production experience in college. But I wanted to ultimately be on the other side of the camera, not behind the camera. I wanted to be telling stories and doing work on TV. And the best and most logical path that I saw for that was to get into TV news, because I did like doing news when I was at Point Park. I was involved with the newspaper. I was editor-in-chief for a year. I did UView and WPPJ and all the media outlets at Point Park. So I decided to get really aggressive looking for news jobs out of college. the weekend anchor spot at my station opened up, and the news director at the station at the time knew one of my professors at Point Park. And so it was through that connection that I was able to get my interview with him, and they hired me to anchor right out of college, which doesn't always happen in this business. So I was anchoring the weekends, reporting during the weeks, and eventually they promoted me to be the evening anchor Monday to Friday. I was also reporting, and because of the pandemic, we've had to change a lot of things, and we've lost some bodies and haven't been able to replace some people that we've lost. So I'm doing probably 3 or 4 people's jobs on any given day. So part of the experience I got at Point Park, even though it was all in sports, it was all over the place. I was doing every single thing that I could, and that prepared me to get this job, and it is preparing me to get my second job. I'm in talks with a couple of stations right now, and I've had some really good offers come my way since I've been here, but none of them have been perfect just yet. But I'm getting ready to make my next jump, and it's an exciting one. I'm not ready to announce it yet because it's not set in stone, but we're talking here today about trying to get there from here and landing your dream job. I'm not at my dream place of employment. I don't want to spend the rest of my life in West Virginia, but I'm doing my dream job in a sense because this is what I love to do, and I'm doing it every day, and I'm finding a way to do it. And Matt is the same exact way. You might not know where your dream opportunity will be, but you know what you want to do. And as long as you're doing that somewhere and you like what you do, then ultimately it's not going to be work for you. So that's, in short, Josh Croup getting here from there.
But and for the group, note that he said, it was a Point Park professor who helped get that first interview. Some of the relationships you make, they might seem mundane when you're making them, but there are a lot of those kinds of stories. And when you impress people, they can help you down the road. You never know for sure. I remember back to the thing Josh hates me to talk about, that first interview for the winter meetings, but Dean Palo told Mike Fetchko and I, we could absolutely not take a freshman to the winter meetings. That was against the rules. And Josh was a freshman. And we had to go into the dean's office and tell him that we believe in this kid. We think he should go. He said, okay, he went, he got a job. So there are people who you'll see, and I see a lot of faces in this call who I believe in, who people believe in you, they will help you. So those relationships will I think pay off as these guys show. I want to, Matt and Josh, we've had the students already submit some questions. So I'm going to go down the list, not necessarily in order, a little haphazard maybe. Some are for both of you, some are for one or the other. But one thing just to start, the center here is kind of a unique little thing. Obviously, you used all of the assets of your Point Park careers, the TV station, radio station, sports to get where you are. But you also have been big parts of the center. I'm hoping that while you got jobs on your talent experience, that maybe that provided a little nudge. Can you tell the students here how it helped you at all?
Yeah, I can start out with that one. So yeah, I was a part of the center when they first launched, and it was a really cool experience. It was something new, something innovative, and I really wanted to be a part of it. So I think it was my junior heading into my senior year. I think Mike approached me about working on a feature for, I think it was Comcast at the time, and we were assigned to assemble a production crew, all based on Point Park students, covering a high school basketball tournament down in Washington County. And Mike called me. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to volunteer you for this. You're going to assemble a crew, and this is going to be your responsibility." I said, "All right, let's do this." So right out of the gates, I knew that I had to embrace, being uncomfortable to get comfortable. And I think that's a big lesson you learn in this industry. You're going to have to take some chances, and you really have to establish yourself. Even when you might not know all the answers, you're going to learn to know all the answers going through it. So I think that was a great opportunity. Never would have known it if I didn't know Mike and Tom at the center really pushed me to my limits. But also just, throughout the center, all the great events that were held, got to interview Doc Emmerich. I actually got to see Doc Emmerich quite a few times in my career outside of Point Park. So it was just a really cool experience, and it's really just kind of stuck with me ever since I've been in the industry.
The center, what I loved about it, yes, of course, like Matt said, Mike and Tom know everybody in the city, and you never know where in the world Mike Fetchko is to hook you up with somebody or something. But the people that I was around when I was in the center, those were people that I could feed off. There weren't just the schmucks in the corner of the classroom. The people who were involved with the center, those were the competitors. Those were the people who had ambitions. And by surrounding yourself with other people who are competitive and who are trying to get ahead, that only makes you better. Because for someone like me, if I'm just sitting around and I don't have anyone to compete with, it gives me no motivation. But if I can compete with the person next to me and they're competing against me and we're both trying to make ourselves better, that was the best part about the center, is you were always surrounded by people with similar ambitions and goals as you. And the events that we had were fantastic to meet people and get and at least hear them speak, but to follow up with them after was also really valuable. That was always something we would try and do, at least when I was on the board, was get the emails of people who would come by, send them a follow-up, another follow-up, check in with them a year later, say, hey, just wanted to give you an update on my career. Thanks a lot for coming, yada, yada, yada.
One of the questions, actually, I'll jump ahead, Josh, since you said that, is one of the students that is when you make these contacts, because they've made some this year, what's the proper way to do that? What's just enough? What's too much? You don't want to bother them, but generally when they give you your email, they want to hear from you. Could you guys just talk a little bit about that?
Matt, you have a pretty good network. I'll let you start with that, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the biggest misconception is whenever you're trying to connect with someone, it's like, okay, I'm instantaneously gonna get a job just from connecting with this person. That's not the reality of things. You really just wanted to introduce yourself, really compliment them on their work, because you're actually looking up to and you want to learn from. So, hey, maybe talk about a project that they worked on and really gonna get their perspective on what made that project unique. And then you could say, hey, I'm looking to get some more feedback on a project that I'm really satisfied with, but I want some constructive criticism. Constantly look for ways to grow, because if you continually putting yourself out there, it's only going to help you. So I urge everyone, whoever's you're going out to seek some advice from, is just to constantly keep that relationship going, because you never know when you're going to need to get in contact with that person at whatever point in your career. So don't make a connection just to get that job, but make the connection to build a relationship, because relationships, that's what's going to get you the job in this industry.
And it could be something as simple as adding them as a friend on Facebook if they're willing to, or LinkedIn, and liking their statuses or commenting on some of their stuff. So that way they at least are familiar with your name. When I told you the way I got this interview here was through the Point Park professor, gave me his name. I emailed him in November or December, and he didn't even respond to that email until April. So the person with social anxiety in me has such a crippling fear of sending an email to somebody thinking I'm bothering them, I'm annoying them. But 99% of the people in this industry were helped by somebody. They want to return the favor. And if you're sending them an email, it at least shows them that, hey, this guy's interested. And don't overdo it. Don't have typos or say my name wrong in your email. If you're emailing a woman and you call them Mr., you're not getting a response from anybody in that company. So you have to be careful about it, and you have to be really nitpicky with how you're editing your emails and your notes, but don't be afraid to do it. The worst thing they could do is not open it.
Absolutely. I can tell you so many times, have you been on the receiving end for many years, that the typos and the misspelled names, it's not an ego thing, but it's like, I need you to do this kind of work. If you can't you don't have any deadline. If you can't get the name and the team correctly now, how can I rely on you? So those little things are important. One thing I wanted to say before we got to the next question, what Josh had said about the center, he said that about being around other students who are motivated. He said that once at one of our board meetings, and it really affected Mike and I, because we hadn't thought of it that way. And we've kind of changed the center a little bit since then to focus more on smaller, really motivated groups of students, rather than trying to get 200 people in an event. Maybe 125 of whom had to be there. It was just thought it was cool because it was sports. Let's get a smaller group. of people who really want to work in this business and can feed off each other. And so, Josh, thanks for that. I remember you saying that day. I could see where you were in the room saying it, and we didn't change a bit. Now, this group, Matt and Josh, obviously, everybody's going to be looking for internships. You guys were both very aggressive, did a lot of internships. What's the most important thing you can do as an intern?
Yeah, I'll start on that one. I'd say get as much experience as you can. Don't leave that internship, thinking that, oh man, I really wish I would have done this or that, or maybe I wish I would have asked how to do this. Your internship is for you to get experience. So walk away from that internship, getting all the experience that you can. And then don't be afraid to branch out, even in the department that you're interning in. If there's something that might pique your interest and say, well, I wish I would have asked a question about this department, go ahead. I mean, they're there to help you out. So really use all the resources available to you in an internship, because you want to walk away from that internship with all the experience that you can get.
The great Gina Catanzarite told me, when you're in an internship, you have to stand by, don't stand around. Interns get brushed aside all the time. They're extra bodies for whenever you need paper runs. Don't just stand around waiting for somebody to come and give you something to do. Be on top of things. Be 2 steps ahead of your boss. Think like them. Know what they're going to want. And whenever they say, I need this cable, can you run and grab it? You already have it in your hand. Or say, I need you to file the stats for tomorrow's game. It's already been done. So you have to get quickly acclimated with your surroundings, know the climate and what you can do. So that way they don't have to tell you what to do, because the interns under Tom doesn't have time to tell people under him to tell the interns what to do. You need to just figure it out and know what to do. And the people that do that are the ones that stand out. The interns who you don't have to spoon feed instructions to, those are the ones that they remember, because there's nothing worse than being a forgotten intern.
That's good advice. Now, as far as getting the internship and to extend that to getting the job, everybody knows cover letter, resume. What else can students do or think of besides cover letter and resume to make themselves stand out?
Website.
Yeah, you have to market yourself. You have to be the biggest advocate for you, because if you're not going to advocate for yourself, I'm not going to go digging into why I should hire this person. If you don't want it, then I'm clearly going to know that you don't want it. So you have to show that your work ethic is going to stand up to what your resume presents itself.
And have something that goes beyond the one sheet of paper. Have actual evidence that you can do something, whether it's a pretty basic website that just has a couple of clips, or your LinkedIn is decked out with a bunch of samples of your work. Have some physical evidence that you can back up your claims with that you make in the resume. Everybody exaggerates on their resume and uses big fancy adjectives to show that they're good. Have some proof of that. And when you are marketing yourself and branding yourself, keep in mind that, yeah, you're your own brand, and that brand isn't just your website. It's your social media profiles. It's who you're contacting on social media. It's who you're following. It's what you're liking. Whenever we hire somebody new here, part of my job as like the number 2 to the news director is to do deep background checks. It's not just, has this guy been arrested? It's, who is he friends with on Facebook? What is he commenting about? Who are the people that he's talking with on Twitter? And I have a laundry list of people that I've said, I found this one bad tweet. I don't know. And that one bad tweet is enough to just discredit you, because in any industry where there's a large supply of people like you trying to get in, all it takes is one little mistake or one little thing for an employer to find that says, I'll just move on to the next one. Because you're essentially a shoelace. If the shoelace gets worn out, you just change it out and you get a new one. If you don't like one thing that somebody has online, then that's enough to ruin your chances of getting that internship. So you have to be mindful when you are branding yourself and making your website and your portfolio and your resume to make sure that there are no holes in there, to Google yourself, to do a background check on yourself, to say, if somebody's looking at me for the first time, what are they going to see?
Yeah, I'll add on that real quick. Make sure that you're energetic and you show your personality during the interview, because you don't want to show that you're bland, because in this industry, you work so many hours. So you want to be someone that's enjoyable to be around. There's so many instances where we've had candidates come in and yeah, they're qualified, but we want to make sure that there's someone that we can have fun and enjoy being around them in a strenuous environment. Because, you know, a lot of times in the workplace, it's stressful, but you have to have some fun. You have to make an enjoyable atmosphere. So that's also very important as well.
Don't be a diva.
Matt, could you talk a little bit about the networking group that you put together, how you came about that, what it is,
Yeah.
what its purpose is, and how it's also been impacted by the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 years ago, I was at a national conference, and it's a conference where we get to network with professionals all across the industry, and it's awesome. You know, it's a 3-day convention. Went to a new city every year, but you know, I walked away from that experience and realized, okay, well, I got to meet these people, but there's only 3 days out of the year. How can I bring that to a 24/7, 365 environment? So I created a networking community. It's called the Sports Creative Community, and it allows you to constantly network with professionals in the sports industry in a creative capacity. So what we did is, before the pandemic, we would have a networking event in a new city across the country, and it would be more of a social gathering, maybe you know, just grabbing a drink, grabbing you know, appetizers, and just really getting to know people. Because like I said, building those relationships, you have to be rememberable, and you have to, you know, stick in someone's minds. Okay, well, I met this person once, they were great, you know, I'd like to keep that conversation going. So, you know, build those face-to-face interactions and bring them to a community, because there's so many different forms of social media out there. You have your Twitter, you have your Instagram, Facebook, what might be it, but in networking in terms of sports, how do we bring that to one platform? So we're on Slack, and that's a good way to build a community in a sense of different channels, because there's a place for everyone. So as we, you know, go into 2020, a pandemic really makes it hard to meet face to face. So we really thrived on going virtual. And during the pandemic, we had a panel every week for, I think we went 16 weeks straight with a panel from different industry professionals out there. And it was a really cool environment, and we were really able to help out a lot of folks, because there was a lot of uncertainty going throughout this industry. So a really cool opportunity we had is when the Last Dance documentary came out on Michael Jordan, we were able to get the VP of production on The Last Dance right before The Last Dance debuted. So it's a really cool sneak peek opportunity for professionals in the industry to kind of see how The Last Dance came to fruition. Because I don't know if many of you know this, but the Last Dance actually wasn't complete before it started going out on ESPN. I think they were 8 episodes done, and they had 2 more to complete before the whole series was complete. So it was really refreshing to hear that, you know, other professionals in this industry are still playing catch up and finding ways to be innovative and make it look like a seamless transition, because they were working around the clock to get that production done. So right now, just with the community, it's really meant to help professionals from, you know, whatever walk of life. You could be a college student like you guys are right now, to a VP in a company. So right now, we're just really helping folks, you know, just collaborate and, you know, just be in this industry right now, because as you will find out, the community always wants to help each other out, no matter what you know, part of your career you're in. You're always working together and trying to see how you can help one another out.
And what's the address if students are interested?
Yeah, I could put it in the chat here.
Okay, yeah, put it in the chat. That'd be great. That'd be great. Josh, one for you. You spoke a little earlier about, you know, wanting to be in sports when you're in college, now working in news. What is the difference between doing sports and doing news professionally? Is there much?
Yes, there's a world of a difference. Especially in local TV news, our sports people get 2 to 3 minutes a newscast. I get 90 minutes. So there's a lot more screen time, and there's a lot more that goes into building the entire show. When I'm producing and anchoring it and doing stories for the news, I have to fill an hour and a half. Whereas doing sports, there's still a lot that they have to cover, but they have to cover a lot in a shorter amount of time. So I get way more screen time than them. that's probably the biggest difference. The work and the grind is the same. We're both driving all over creation to cover stories. We're both working 12, 13-hour days just to be on TV for a few minutes, but we're ultimately still trying to accomplish the same thing, which is to put together one big product. Whenever there is some crossover at our station, because we're a smaller station, the sports people have to work on election nights. They have to go to the courthouses and count the results as they come in. And on Friday nights during the high school football season, they ask for volunteers to go out and shoot some games. And I'm the first person to volunteer. This is my first season. I had a perfect season getting to covering a game every week. So because I'm not the sports person, I don't get the good games. I get the really bad team versus the somewhat bad team, but it's still high school football and it's still a little bit of sport. So I was able to reinvent myself that way while doing news as my job, but also doing sports for fun, because sports is fun to me. And doing high school football on Friday nights, they're the stressed ones. I'm just having fun on the sidelines. I get to come back, I cut a highlight, and I go home.
And Matt, with all your travels, I'm sure you've done things that you weren't hired to do as well, and they've probably been beneficial. You might not have enjoyed them when you were doing them, but looking back, you're probably glad you did.
Yeah, in this industry, you're asked to do a little bit of everything. If it's not in the job description, you're going to be asked to do it. I mean, there's always this little fine print in a job description, and other duties is assigned. Get used to that, because you're going to be doing a lot of other duties as assigned. But yeah, no, I think it's just really a team mentality. You're working a lot in athletics, and there's going to be scenarios where in a game, someone's not going to want to do an assignment they're given, but they have to do it because it's for the better of the team. So as a professional in this industry, you're going to have to do some of the nitty-gritty work to really establish yourself and get to where you want to go. So, I mean, anywhere you go, you're going to have to do something that you might not want to do that week. But at the end of the day, it's just really helping the team get to where they need to be.
And it's important too to not say no when you're starting out, because the second you say no, we'll move on to the next guy who will say yes. So you got to be that utility player who can do everything, and not just do it, but do it well, and be ready to jump on anything. And that's not just news or sports, but that's pretty much everything, I would say.
And not just job description, but let's talk also job location. Everybody, if you're from Pittsburgh, ideally you would want to work in Pittsburgh. That's very hard to do coming out of the gate. Both of you had traveled. Matt, you've traveled a lot. One question was, how worthwhile is it to be open-minded and maybe move to a new part of the country, a city or a state that you didn't think of, or you had no real desire to go to, but to get that job, to get started in the business?
Yeah, for sure. So I've lived in 5 states since working in the industry right now. And it's really just allowed me to be more open-minded, connect with different cultures. For me, I love to diversify my network because it allows me to think differently, and it allows me to bring different cultures into my work. So, if I wouldn't have lived in the South, I really wouldn't have, gained how they think and their mindset and the culture they think about sports. Even like when I was in Texas, that was a big cultural shock for me. Everyone had a pair of cowboy boots, and I was like, yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh. I don't even know what cowboy boots are down there. So it's just really an opportunity to step outside your comfort zone, because you get to meet a lot of great people that you really never thought you would meet one day. And you're able to bring that into your network. So, working in different parts of the country has just allowed me to think differently and think outside the box, because each part of the country is different and it has its uniqueness. So just really allow that to come with you wherever you go in your journey.
And of course, everyone wants to be close to family, and you want to be close to home. I would love to get back to Pittsburgh someday. But getting out there is so important, and it's more realistic. You're not going to get a full-time job paying $90,000 working with the Pittsburgh Pirates right out of college. You're going to need to climb your way up, and you just have to do it. It's called paying your dues, and you got to be willing to travel. Matt's been in 5 states. I've been in 1, but I've gotten to travel to other states for work. And I think the culture thing was really important that he said too, because you get stuck in your bubble whenever you're in one place for your whole life, and getting out to really rural conservative part of America, like in West Virginia, or looking at the other places where I'm looking to relocate now, it's a completely different world. And when you're working in sports, especially, you need to understand how the fans work and how fans of other teams work. And Matt, maybe this is something you could talk about just now with your role with the NFL. You're looking at the fan in general, but with your just experience, I guess, going to different cities and seeing different fan bases and how they all react and how different levels of passion and intrigue are there. How does that shape the NFL's perspective to market to just the fan?
Yeah, it's a great question you bring up there, Josh. So, a lot of the NFL right now is engaging with the fan, but given 2020, it's really difficult because, some stadiums are allowing fans in, some are not. Being based out here in California, the 49ers just had to move all their operations to Arizona. So they really had not had any physical fans. So they really had to really work on being a virtual component of what they would do on a game day and present that in a virtual capacity. So every NFL team has a fan base, but it's really what characteristics build up that fan base. So I think a lot of organizations are looking into, what is important to the fan base, and then how they can deliver that in a different capacity. And Tom, I know at the Penguins, you guys are constantly thinking outside the box, just with the parameters we're working in. That's just what the NFL is doing right now. We're coming up on a big milestone. The Super Bowl is coming up, but you got to think about how do we work outside the box to be innovative, and how do we draw that big time stage to fan bases across the world, because a lot of people out there are missing sports and missing the normalcy of sports. So how do we connect the in-game interactions and bring it to your living room and make it feel like you're in the game yourself? So we're constantly thinking of ways to be innovative and adapting to the times right now.
There are parallels there. So one more point, Tom. There are parallels there. You don't want to limit yourself whenever you actually get to work, just like you don't want to limit yourself whenever you're looking for work. Maybe pick a region of the country, but don't limit yourself to, I have to be in Pittsburgh out of college. Be willing to go to Michigan or Ohio or California. If that's what it's going to take, you have to think strategically, just like the teams are thinking whenever they're saying, how can we still engage with our fans? The old way doesn't do it. And you have to be innovative in every aspect of your life, including when it comes to just looking for a job.
You guys have been very successful early in your careers, but if you could turn back the clock and go back to college, what's one thing you would have done differently?
It's a tough question. But yeah, thinking back on that, I was thinking about that earlier today, and I really wish I would have done more international experience. I had a great opportunity to travel to Italy when I was at Point Park, just doing an international media course. But me, having traveled, within the U.S., I've been able to see different parts of the country and experience different cultures. But I really wish I would have, experienced more international flavors. When I was coming back to the U.S. and implement that kind of style into my workflow, because I think the more diverse you are and the more experiences you can bring with you, it's only going to help you diversify your staff as well. So that's probably one thing I would have done, is travel internationally more and kind of get some more education on just how other teams operate outside the U.S.
That's a great question. I think looking back, I think I did as much as I possibly could, as one human could, in as many different organizations as I could. If I would have done anything differently, it probably would have been, especially early at Point Park, to not be as narrow-minded. Yeah, I did a lot of things and I was really active, but I was pretty set freshman, sophomore year on, I want to be at Sports Center. And to be honest, anybody getting into the sports TV and the sports media world, that's what they want to do whenever they're early on in college. I eventually brought in my goals, but I wish I would have done that sooner, to tailor my resume toward that. Because my resume after coming out of college was all sports. And whenever I realized I wanted to get a news internship and try and get into news, one of the Pittsburgh stations told me I was too qualified going into my senior year. And then CNN had me apartment hunting. And then they said, just kidding. We think you have too much sports on your resume. We want somebody with at least a little newsroom experience. Then I was stuck that year, but I still found something. So I think I would have gotten out of my box a little bit earlier. Overall, I think I accomplished everything that I wanted to, but that's the biggest thing. Everything happens for a reason, so I don't want to say I have any regrets, but if you had a time machine.
Guys, just have a few more minutes. This has been great. Really appreciate you doing it. It's great. It's great to see you. Any final words of advice for these guys? Again, it's during a pandemic. Everybody's wondering, how do I get internships? You obviously are proof that jobs are there, and Josh may have another one here, and Matt reinvented himself. Just final words of advice from each of you.
Yeah, I guess my takeaways would be, whenever you're going into interview or whenever you do get the job, make sure to stay true to who you are, because you are the most unique person in the role, because you can be you best. So don't really, shy away from being yourself, because that's what got you the job in the first place. But I think so many of us are struggling with the imposter syndrome that this industry has. There's so many talented individuals out there, but realize that you were hired to do this job because someone does appreciate your work. So always, revert back to that. And then I'll say this again, just you have to network. Networking is huge in this industry. If you want to make it in this industry, you have to network. I constantly network. The reason why I got my job with NFL is because 2 years prior, I networked with someone at NFL, because I didn't know at the time, I was at the Oakland A's. I was happy at the A's. But just because I networked 2 years prior, I made that connection and made that opportunity possible for me to go to the NFL in a scenario that I never would have thought of happened. So keep your network alive and constantly network. It's never a bad thing to have a big network, because you never know when you're going to need it one day.
And along with networking, a lot of the deals that are done behind closed doors before the job is posted, because a news director or somebody with the team will reach out to their buddy and say, hey, I'm hiring this position. You know anybody who might be good for it? Because they don't want to spend 3 weeks interviewing people and job hunting or employee hunting. So having that network is huge. Whenever that position does open up, if that one person who you met at Point Park, who you've been in contact with, knows your name and has seen your work, you might have the job before it's even posted. During a pandemic, with maybe the internship opportunities being limited, if there's an opportunity out there, especially at Point Park, you got to jump on it. Jane Pauley hosts CBS Sunday Morning, and she was at a talk in Pittsburgh a few years ago, and she said, say yes before the reasons for saying no creep into your head. Because if you tell yourself, well, I might not have time to hang out with my friends, or I'm not going to be able to make this one class 3 weeks from now, I can't do it. You got to just jump on it, because if somebody's approaching you with an opportunity, it means they see you as a valuable person, and you have to jump on it, and you have to reinvent yourself like Matt has to try and find ways to put together a portfolio. It might not be with an organization or a team. Kevin Taylor's here with Point Park Athletics. Colton DeBias, you know how much Kevin has and Point Park has to offer in the athletic department. I spent so much time there, and that's a huge reason why I was able to get so much experience in school. It wasn't with a team that had the NFL or MLB or NHL beside it, but it was experience. And that's all people want, is experience. If you can do the job, they don't care who you did the job for. So you have to jump on any opportunity that you can get and make sure that you're just putting your best foot forward. And if you're giving it your all, eventually somebody's going to notice. Tom, you're muted, I think.
I'm sorry, I'm muted. still the 64-year-old guy here. We shot for 45 minutes. We did 44. So that's perfect. Really appreciate it. It's great to see you guys. You mean a lot to Point Park in the center, and I know the students really got a lot out of this today. So thanks so much. Jill has, for the rest, everyone on the call, Jill has their emails if you want to reach out. As they both said, and hopefully you all be this one day. It is a community. You do want to help other people. Everybody who made it has gotten help along the way, and you want to pay it back. So I think, especially in the Point Park community, we're always interested in helping fellow alums. So Josh, Matt, thanks so much. We look forward to hearing your future news, and please stay in touch.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And just one final note is, we're giving you guys our emails. That means we do want to hear from you. Every time I was on one of these calls when I was at Point Park, I emailed that person. I can't tell you how many times I was talking to my friends, oh, did you email that person? No, I didn't. Take advantage of it, because these are the times to connect and really help each other out.
Absolutely. Oops. Thanks, Matt. Good luck, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.